Napoli fans around the world, welcome back to Napoli Talk. Now, I know I've been missing for a long time. I took a little bit of a break. I'll explain more about what I've been doing maybe in another video because things are a little different now. And as you can probably tell, I'm not in England anymore. I'm in Naples, which is why the background is a little different. Now, I've received a ton of messages asking me to come back and make some videos. So here I am back, even though I'm on holiday, making some videos for you guys. And I think it's needed because there's a lot that's happened since the last time I made a video. Obviously, that was when the season ended. And since then, we've had a ton of departures. The environment right now, the tension that we have at Napoli is not the greatest. There's a lot of people that are extremely disappointed with how the club has handled the recent departures of Insigne, Ospina, Koulibaly, and potentially Mertens. No one seems to be that upset that Malcuit left, which is surprising because he was a top player for us. Anyways, these are guys that have international experience, Champions League experience. However, they did come with age and they did come with a very high salary for Napoli's books. And there's a policy right now, whether you like it or not, to cut down salaries and to reduce the average age of the club. Because let's face it, guys, we need to start a new cycle. We've been with the same players since almost the Benitez years. So we definitely needed some fresh blood. And it's as good of a time now as ever. We've got Champions League football coming up. That's an incentive for players to come to Napoli. I know you guys will be talking about the whole Dybala, but apart from Dybala, if there is a time to buy some new players, it's when you are gonna head into a Champions League season, because players generally, unless you're Dybala, want to play Champions League football. And in terms of the players that we already bought, I think we've actually improved based on who they're meant to replace. Now, let's start with the most basic. Leo Ostigard coming in as a fourth choice center back. He is meant to replace Tuanzebe or alternatively Manolas, who was technically with us at the start of last season. Now, Manolas was a disaster in his last few months, and Tuanzebe, let's not even talk about him. I destroyed that guy at Hungry Hippos, and that was literally the only thing he was good at. So Leo Ostigard coming in is a huge improvement at center back, and he came in January, December last year for Genoa, and when he came in, Genoa went on an 8 consecutive game unbeaten run with a lot of nil-nils in there. So clearly he is a decent guy at the back. If Genoa went down last year, it's not because of Leo Ostigard. Now, moving on to the second person that we bought, Oliveira. He's meant to replace Gulam, and a bit like Ostigard, that is a clear improvement, because Gulam, let's face it, he was out of the technical project of the team. The team could not, or at least Spalletti could not rely on his fitness. And yeah, I mean, that's been the case for a lot of years now. We've been playing with Mario Rui at left back and no replacement pretty much for a long time. We finally have a really good guy coming in with La Liga experience, international experience as well, because he plays for Uruguay for a while now. So I think this is a great addition to the team, and not only is he going to be a reserve, but I think he's going to challenge Mario Rui for a starting position. And finally, we have Kvara, who I've spoken so much about him on Twitter, and I made a video about him a few months ago. I am completely in love with the guy. I think he's got so much potential and skill. He's obviously a bit rough around the edges. I saw a few friendlies recently, and he maybe tries to dribble a bit too much. He's a bit eager, but guys, the times when he does pull the thing off, it's spectacular to watch. He's great with his left foot, his right foot, ball control. What he has is that he's super direct, unlike Insigne, who likes to receive the ball and maybe stop the play so that he can turn into his right foot. What Kvara has is that he's able to go one-on-one against defenders and outrun them, outsprint them. I honestly think that Kvara will have a better season than Insigne had last year. I'm not saying he's a better player than Insigne, of course not, but Insigne last year had 2 goals from open play. I expect Kvara to score at least 2 goals by September. Now guys, as for Mertens, that's an incredibly difficult player to replace because although he was not playing a lot of minutes under Spalletti, I still think he has an incredible quality, and if you need anybody to come off the bench to help you win a game, then obviously you would want to have Mertens do that. Having said that, the amount of minutes that he played last year due to him getting older and older was a significant drop from previous years, and the trend, I think, would be the same this year. Put into consideration that there is a World Cup as well in the middle of the season that he's got to go out and play with Belgium, prepare for play. You don't know how he's going to come back from that World Cup, how tired he might be, if he might pick up an injury there or not. Which is why I think that if we go for a player like Deulofeu, who maybe does not have that same issue in the middle of the season because he's probably not going to be in the Spain team, you've got a rested player for sure in the second half of the season unless something catastrophic happens to him in the first few months. And Deulofeu is as good as anyone to replace someone like Mertens, not in terms of absolute terms and the way we love Mertens, but he's a guy that has an incredible skill. He's top 5 for chances created, top 5 for free kicks provided, top 5 for passes inside the box, top 5 for touches inside the box, and he is just one of those players that you want to see play. Now let's get to Ospina. Trying to replace him is incredibly difficult because he had an amazing season last year, definitely a starter and definitely a key difference maker for this Napoli team. Countless incredible saves from Ospina. Having said that, we do have Meret, who is a young goalkeeper. Now, I know a lot of people do not like Meret and are not confident when Meret is on the field. He's got some severe limitations, especially when it comes to ball distribution, and we saw that, for example, against Empoli, how it costed us. Having said that, I look at the season that Donnarumma has had when he's had to play 50-50 with Navas, and Donnarumma suffered that 50-50 competition and his performances dropped significantly. Goalkeepers are known to suffer from this kind of competition, and I remember the Meret when we were still with Ancelotti in his first 6 months, and that was an incredible Meret, and I hope that him being a starter might be able to push him back to that level. I think Meret, this is a make or break season. It could go really well, but it is definitely a risk because Ospina was fantastic. And finally, we have the Koulibaly situation, and he is really the only irreplaceable player that we have because he is such a leader. Physically, he was next level. Tactically, technically, just an incredible player, and I made a video specifically about how Koulibaly is the key for Napoli. So I don't need to say any more on Koulibaly. We all know how important he is. Having said that, the club did receive a 40 million euro offer for a 31-year-old who was on his last year of contract, and I think Koulibaly himself wanted to try new experiences. Now Napoli are looking at a few alternatives, and the number one seems to be Kim, who's valued at 20 million because of his release clause. I think his value is actually slightly higher than that. I think his release clause is a bit low for the player that he is. He was the best player in Turkey's league last season, and we know the type of quality that the Turkish league has. There's some good players that have played there in the past, including Elmas. He is definitely, though, someone that hasn't played at the level of competition that a club like Napoli might play in Italy or Champions League. So that's a big risk for Napoli. But as I said before, I think for 20 million, it's a good deal because I think he's worth much more than that. Now guys, to finish off this transfer market summary, obviously we have to talk about Dybala. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, if Dybala chose Roma, who's not even got Champions League football, what does that say about Napoli's project compared to Roma's project? Guys, Dybala chose Roma because Roma put in a 20 million release clause. Now guys, what Dybala did with Roma is very simple. He joins Roma, parks himself there for 6 months, then you get the World Cup, does really well at the World Cup with Argentina, hopefully for him, and then that means that by that point his brand image, after the hype that we had this summer of him and maybe a potential really good World Cup in November, December, the hype would build so much that a club, maybe as soon as January, might go and pay that 20 million release clause, and then he can go off to another team. Maybe a team that already plays Champions League football, like Bayern or, I don't know, Chelsea, whatever. The point is that if Dybala insisted to have a 20 million release clause in his contract, he literally sees Roma as just a stepping stone. He doesn't see any long-term project there. Otherwise, he wouldn't be putting a 20 million release clause in his contract. On the other hand, you could say, well, what's Napoli's project? Partly, we discussed that with the transfers that we're making, and I still think that we have a competitive team, which means I think it's a team that can still beat teams from 20th to 6th position relatively easily, or let's say 7th position relatively easily. And then it's a team that, if we can click together, if players like Kvara, Oliveira, maybe Deulofeu, really get into the rhythm, then that's a team that can potentially beat the likes of Inter, Milan and Juve in head-to-heads. And once you do that, then maybe you can start looking at the title. But really, it's, I think, unfair to criticize De Laurentiis as much as he's been criticized, because guys, he has given us teams in the past that could win the title. Obviously not clear favorites, but I don't think we can expect that from Napoli when you've got Inter, Milan and Juve who are owned by people with 20 times more money than De Laurentiis. What we did have was a team that could compete for the title, and if we lost the title, it's not because of De Laurentiis, but it's because a few Spalletti's poor choices and a few results that just were unlucky and didn't go our way. But I think he did his job. He did build a team that technically had the capacity to win the title. So I think we're being overly harsh on him. And as I said before, the players that we did sell, they're huge players, but we do need to start a new cycle. It's been way too long that we've had those players. We're gonna miss them. It sucks, but we need new heroes. We need people with more hunger, and hopefully the new guys will give us that. In any case, guys, it's July. We saw what happened last year with Anguissa coming in on the last day and being the best player 3 days later on the field. So let's stay calm. I think Napoli are going to get some really interesting players over the next few weeks, and let's see next June where that leads us. Now it's way too early. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you didn't miss me too much over the last few weeks, and as always, Forza Napoli sempre.